Deadlock's UI is pretty amazing, especially considering how it's an early access game and a lot of the features are still a work in progress. And I mean, just look at this Q select screen. This is gorgeous. Clearly, there's a lot to praise about Deadlock's UI, but it's not perfect. And when I criticized Deadlock's visual clutter a couple of months back, a lot of people pointed out that there are some pretty big issues with the UI, especially some things that are just really unintuitive for new players. And that's really what I want to focus on in this video. So let's get started by discussing the area of Deadlock's UI that needs the most improvement, the minimap. This has many problems and issues that often go overlooked, but could definitely be made much better. And I'm kind of showcasing one of the issues already right now. Take a look at my player icon here on the minimap. Of course, it's very helpful for seeing where I am and what direction I'm looking. However, you'll notice that I am obscuring not just one, but two entire jungle camps with this icon. They are completely invisible underneath my player icon. And that can be very annoying, especially when you have a jungle camp that is inside of a building, like these Sinner's Sacrifices here. But honestly, jungle icons aren't even the biggest problem here, because player icons can also cover up other very important details on the map. For example, if you're just playing underneath your tower right here, you have absolutely no way to see the health of the tower without just directly looking at the Guardian like this. I am completely covering up the minimap icon for this Guardian. But even worse than that is when you're not able to see what type of bridge buff is available on the minimap because a bunch of players are just covering it up. So, for example, if I'm over here on blue lane just duking it out with somebody and I see that two people are on the left battling for the bridge buff, I have no idea what bridge buff they're battling over. Is it a movement buff, in which case I don't really care, or is it a vitality buff, which I need to be very concerned if the enemies pick up? I have absolutely no idea because it's completely obscured. And furthermore, while you are able to see what bridge buff the enemy has picked up by looking above their health bar just like this, there is no UI indicator on the actual player HUD. So if I'm not looking at that guy, I have no way of knowing that he is the one with the gun buff, which is kind of a problem. Furthermore, the minimap has absolutely no distinction as to whether players are above or below ground, which is another very big problem in a game like Deadlock where you have these two distinct levels of play on the map. For example, look at the page and the paradox that I put on the minimap right now. One of them is above ground and one of them is below ground. Which one is which? Well, you can't tell unless you're directly looking at them. And while I can see them through the wall because they're my teammates, if there's a fight happening and there are enemy icons on the map, which I would not be able to see through the wall, then I have absolutely no way of knowing whether they're above or below ground until it's too late. And while this might not seem like that big of a deal, when you're fighting in this region of the map or other similar regions, it actually really hurts your ability to chase enemies effectively, because you could be trying to chase them and track their movements above ground when actually they've been below you the whole time. I have fallen for this issue on numerous occasions, and I know I'm not the only one. Especially now that there's this whole tunnel system in Deadlock, I think it's even more pertinent that we have updated minimap icons for when a player is underground. Furthermore, many of the icons on the map are just not very helpful and not very intuitive for new players, and while they have made some strides in improving this, like with the new urn icon, it's still just a little confusing, especially if you're new and just have no idea what's going on. I have had many a new player come into my stream not knowing how to find items like Sinner's Sacrifices on the map because all they see are a bunch of confusing shapes and they don't really know what any of it means. Especially when you have some overlapping icons like these two right here. You have a Sinner's Sacrifice directly underneath a tier 2 camp. It forges a completely new symbol. What kind of strange new camp is this? Well, it's not. It's actually two separate camps, but it's just not translated very well onto the map. Now, I don't think that these icons need to be too bold because there are so many of them scattered throughout the map. They're subtle by design, but they do still feel somewhat messy and just not clear enough for many players. Now, the last thing I'd like to touch on in regards to the map are timers, because not every timer is actually visible to players on the map. They recently added the ability to see the rejuvenate Eliminator timer, which is absolutely phenomenal, and it has been such a nice feature to have. But I think this could be expanded to every other system that has a timer in various unique ways. Something that I have repeatedly suggested now is to allow jungle camps to display how much time they have left by using these candles here. So, the candles are lit right now because the camp is active. If I kill the camp, then the candles should just snuff out. It should be dark over here, and as the camp is respawning, everything should slowly light back up. And this little summoning circle could kind of be a progress indicator for how much time the camp has left. It would be a very nice, in-universe way to convey the respawn time for each camp, especially because each camp has a dynamic respawn timer. Not every camp is going to respawn at the same time. Now, the urn and bridge buffs share the same intrinsic spawning timer. It's just one of them starts spawning at 5 minutes and the other starts spawning at 10 minutes. And most players who have played the game for a while know about this timing feature, but it's not actually listed anywhere on the UI, and I think that isn't great for new players who are trying to learn the game. And I think it would be real simple to have some kind of clock somewhere over here by the minimap to indicate when these are going to spawn. It could literally be as simple as a picture of the urn with a timer, and then a picture of a bridge buff with a timer, just kind of down here somewhere. It doesn't have to be complicated, it can be very small, but just something to put it in the minds of new players that they need to pay attention to these timers. Right now, it's much harder of a skill to build up. Now, I want to discuss some parts of Deadlock's HUD that could be improved. Specifically, this absolute brick of stats on the left-hand side of your screen. This is one of the toughest things to comprehend as someone getting into Deadlock, because it's just, there's so much happening, there's so much information, and even now as someone who's experienced with the game, because of how similar some of these icons are, it's hard to tell at a glance what exactly everything is here. And when you hold tab, you're able to see every single stat over here, and I think that's great. You should be able to see all this information if you want to, for the purposes of experimenting with items and seeing how everything affects your character. That is great. But some of these stats will also bleed onto the main HUD menu here when you're not holding tab to indicate stats like anti-heal and other debuffs that the enemies have put on you, but also temporary items that you use like Cultist Sacrifice. And I just think that there are so many better ways to do this. The first problem is just that it's inconsistent which effects get displayed on the left versus get displayed next to your health bar as a nice little debuff symbol. I have Infernus here, he's going to shoot me and apply Heal Bane to me with Afterburn. And you can see that, well, the Afterburn here is building up next to my health bar, and that looks great. But then the Heal Bane is all the way off in the corner, so far out of the way of my main field of vision, and it does display a whole bunch of pertinent information. It tells me that it's anti-healing, how much anti-healing, who it's coming from, and from which item, but I honestly don't really need to know all of that information at a glance, and it's so far out of my field of vision that it's hard to always know when I'm being affected by something like anti-heal or a movement slow or something like that. And so for these negative status effects, what I would propose is that they, first of all, move some of these effects closer to the center of your screen, perhaps in an area up here or down here in the center. And they condense it to just be an icon showing anti-heal, for example, and then how much anti-heal. Is it 35%? Is it 80%? Is it Pocket's Affliction that just prevents me from healing entirely? Who it's coming from and from which item is also helpful information, and that could still be listed somewhere else, but trying to convey all of that in a simple icon in the center of the screen probably just isn't that necessary in the grand scheme of things, and so just having a little anti-heal pop-up that lets me know I'm being affected by anti-heal, or having a little movement slow pop-up that's letting me know I'm being slowed, would just be so helpful. And let me know what you think about it in the comments section. Do you prefer the simpler idea, or do you prefer the more complex stat menu that we have now when you're actually in the heat of a battle? But then we have the issue of items that provide you with temporary stats, and these are honestly even worse than the debuffs because, oh, they are just not clear at all, and they just muddy up the UI so much. So let's take Glass Cannon as an example here. This is an item that has stacks and has the ability to lose stacks, so in that sense it also provides you with a temporary buff. If I go ahead and kill Infernus here, sorry buddy, here I have a splatter. Well, now I have 1 stack of Glass Cannon. How does the UI represent this? Well, you see this 7% on the left with a viscous icon, and then a Glass Cannon icon, and then we've got this icon which translates into fire rate, and there's nothing that says how many stacks I have, which is a little strange. And that's just going to be on my UI for the rest of time unless I happen to lose every single Glass Cannon stack, which I think contributes to the effect that some people have where they just feel like the UI is too cluttered. Because you just have these numbers that are on your screen now, and yeah, they're just there. You can't really do anything about it. And they also don't tell you the one most important thing you probably need to know, which is how many stacks you have. To glean that information, you have to hover over the item directly to see that, oh, I've got 3 stacks of Glass Cannon now. I really don't understand why they don't just put a little number on top of the Glass Cannon item or the Trophy Collector item or whatever to tell you how many stacks you have at a glance, where you can just look down at the bottom left, see the item, see the number, and be like, oh, that's how many stacks I have. Because it works that way for stacking abilities like Drifter and Grey Talon, but it doesn't work that way for items for some reason, and that's just not very good UI design in my opinion. But going back to what I said about temporary buffs, let's take a look at another example, Cultist Sacrifice. If I launch this minion, yummy! I now have the Cultist Sacrifice buff, and on the left, I have now 2 numbers and stats and things, and one of them is missing the viscous icon for some reason, so that's great. And once again, it leads to clutter, but you'll notice another thing that's missing. How on earth am I supposed to know the duration of this Cultist Sacrifice buff? How do I know how much time I have left? Well, I don't. I have no idea. I have the cooldown listed down here, and I have the buff listed here, but there is not a single place on this UI where I can see the duration, which is strange. And I think that this could be translated so much better by, first of all, just not showing these numbers here unless I hold tab, and then adding a little circle here next to my health bar, similar to how you display other effects, that just shows the duration of Cultist Sacrifice. I think it would be much cleaner, and it would just be more effective. Because at the end of the day, when I'm in the heat of battle, I don't care about the specific percentages of everything that I have. All I care about is, do I have this buff or not? Do I have this debuff or not? And then how can I react accordingly? I don't need to see this information unless I'm, build crafting in the hideout and I just want to hold tab and see all of this. What I need to see is, do I have the buff, yes or no, and then how long does the buff last? And so I think that's something that would just work much better next to the health bar here, or in some designated buff/debuff section of the UI. Now, briefly, I want to talk about the queue system here, because, well, it is a pretty simple part of the UI ultimately, and it is also very pretty. There's not a lot to do here, and so there's not a lot to mess up, but there is still one very big glaring issue that I've had a lot of people struggle with. I've had new players and friends try to get into this game and get frustrated by the fact that you just have to queue for 3 heroes and you don't get to decide who you pick. They don't know about the high priority system where you can right-click a hero twice to set them to maximum priority. It's just not conveyed well enough. Now, if you hover over a character and you stop to read for 2 seconds, then you might realize that you can make them priority. But as you can see, if I hover over someone who I don't have selected, it doesn't offer you this option. It just says add to roster and then avoid hero. And so you click on someone and then you move your mouse away to maybe click on a different character, and you don't see this whole make priority system. And you'll notice that there's absolutely nothing else on the UI here that indicates that you can do that. And so it leaves many new players and many people who I've tried to get into this game not realizing that you can do this. And I have to tell them and be like, oh, hey, by the way, you can right-click someone twice to make it almost guaranteed that you'll get that character. It's a big point of frustration for players, but it just doesn't have to be. Now, I've done a lot of criticizing in this video, but I don't want to make it seem like I think Deadlock's UI is bad. Quite the contrary, I think, especially the finished components of the UI, are amazing and exemplary, and I want to talk about that before we end off the video, because, well, it's important to highlight all of the good things that Deadlock has as well. For starters, I think the positioning of many of the components on the UI is absolutely splendid, and I love these health bars so much, because they're very close to the center of your vision. You are almost always looking at the center of your screen at where you're aiming, and so you don't want your eyes to have to travel too far to reach all of the other extremely important visual components of the UI during a fight. And so by having your health bar reasonably close to the reticle, you are able to, much more quickly at a glance, even just in your peripheral vision, see relatively how much health you have, as opposed to putting the health bar all the way in the bottom left, all the way on the bottom, or all the way on the bottom right, which would just be harder to look at, especially when you consider widescreen monitors. I've had some widescreen monitor enjoyers point out in my comments section before that the fact that the health bar is placed close to the center of the screen is such a godsend. It really makes a big difference for them, and yeah, I just think it's really well executed, and as far as the style is concerned too, I mean, you know that this is a Deadlock health bar. It looks much more distinct than health bars of other video games, so it's really well done. And furthermore, the team UI is just amazing, and I wish more games had this. It's not a feature that's unique to Deadlock, but it is something that more hero shooters specifically should incorporate. I know a lot of MOBAs have stuff like this, but hero shooters like Marvel Rivals and Overwatch don't. Paladins showed a great way to do this. Paladins actually had a really clean team UI, and Deadlock is no different. Everything is once again just on the top middle of the screen. You get to see everyone's health when they're actually visible on the minimap. You get to see everyone's ult charge, everyone's souls, which is very pertinent information for Deadlock, and then if you hold tab, you also get to see more things at a glance, and I think this redesign has also been very successful. And then the item shop. Oh my goodness, this is just phenomenal. It is stylized so well. It is just dripping with personality, but also it is extremely functional. And part of this is due to the mechanical design of Deadlock, where they have clumped up all the items into different categories that are easy to comprehend in regards to their pricing and their upgrades. Everything is a multiple of 8, and everything is just kind of structured in a way where you don't really have to guess about various prices like in some other games where certain items cost like 300 credits or 200 credits or 225 credits or 175 or what's going on here. So that structure is just really nice. But also the items are so cleverly designed. They have very good names, and some of them are still somewhat thematic in the case of an item like Shadow Weave or Capacitor or Phantom Strike or anything like that, but these names are also extremely functional, and the art for all of these items too just does such a great job of conveying at a glance what the item does. You can know nothing about Deadlock and know nothing about the stats of these items and still guess what most of them do. Close quarters? Oh, well, I reckon that gives you more damage when you're up close. Extended magazine? That gives you more bullets. I can tell because of the name and also because there's bullets. Restorative shot? That looks like a bullet that heals you. Like, all of it is just super intuitive, and it makes learning the item shop so much easier. I'm not a MOBA person, in part because, by golly, some MOBA item shops are just ridiculous, but I never had any trouble learning Deadlock's item shop, and that was even before the item store rework. The item store rework that brought us this incredible UI has only made it easier. It is so vibrant, all the icons are really well done, all the icons are also super distinct from each other. There are almost no icons in the game that look identical, and that's important for identifying what items everyone has at a glance. Just absolute praise goes to Valve for this item shop, and also for the fact that there's a freaking voice actor for the item shop. Like, you buy an item, And this guy just starts talking to you. I mean, there's so much charm in that. It is amazing. And even though the build crafting menu has some bugs, as I've pointed out in previous videos, it is still a phenomenal system. But a system that really, I think, goes underappreciated and taken for granted is the fact that we just have a public build browser. There are so many games out there that just don't include one of these when they really should. Shoot, Overwatch Stadium didn't even learn from this, and it doesn't have an in-game build browser, at least not last time I played. So, yeah, just the fact that you can search for any published build under the sun is just a really great feature that, again, helps the onboarding process and also helps you learn the meta and just see what other people are doing and take inspiration, all without having to leave and go to some third-party website. And the fact that this is one of the first things they added to this game, it's been here literally since the start, since the game got leaked in August of 2024. I mean, that is just amazing. It is such a good feature, and yeah, just want to appreciate it, because I don't think people talk about that enough. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this video, so let me know what you think about Deadlock's UI in the comments section down below. I've made some harsh critiques this video, and so if you agree with them, let me know, but also if you disagree with them and you'd like to raise some counterpoints, please let me know in the comments section down below. As always, of course, try to keep things civil. Don't go being all toxic and grumpy, because that's just not what we're here to do. I love this game, and I want to see it become the best version of itself that it can be, and that's why sometimes I feel it appropriate to point out where things could be better. But anyways, if you like this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos from me. And with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.